At any cost, Metz 1870, and thanks for persevering through the first video, if you have, and we can get on with the next turn. A couple of things to fix from my first turn. Short as it was, there was of course some oversights. It's a new game for me. We'll go through that very quickly. The first one is that the charges I made with the Prussian cavalry were actually illegal, although it's very easy to fix to deploy them so that they would be illegal. I actually moved this cavalry from this hex to the attack here, while this cavalry had been moved through it, and so I'd moved cavalry charging through other units, which is illegal. However, what I should have been able to do is charge this cavalry first to this position to attack that French cavalry unit there, and then this one come through to then charge and just actually destroy that French cavalry unit there. So even though it was incorrect, it was easily corrected, and yeah, that's just one thing for me. The second thing is that after a successful charge, the charging cavalry unit gets a shaken marker, so we'll need to place those. So that's sorted out the cavalry problems. So the next thing is that at the start of the game I should have decided which French activation chit was going to appear for the 9 AM turn. I forgot to do that, and actually at the end of the 8 AM turn I decide the one that's going to appear for the 10 AM turn. The activation of the French army happens in this sequence, so I'll fix that. I had in mind the 3rd Cavalry Division needed to be the 9 AM activation, primarily to get a shot off from the horse artillery, which is in Vionville here, and then the one for 10 AM was going to be the 2nd Corps here, around here, which will allow it to hopefully barrel down the road to try and get the Prussians away from Vionville and Flavigny, and with a bit of luck get to Tronville over here as well, but we'll see. So that's the plan there, so I'll place those tokens where they should be. The 2nd Corps is the other activation there. Interesting point on what we do about the chits. So from studying the chits, I'm pretty sure the best 2 chits to pick each turn would be the Prussian aggressiveness chit for the French and the Besains Malaise for the Prussians. They seem to be the most powerful, and then the others will be random, and I'll maybe reevaluate that as we go, but I think that's a reasonable decision to make. One final thing is there wasn't an opportunity, but depending on how the 1st cavalry battle happened, there was a possibility that there was some cavalry withdrawal. As it transpires, it wasn't possible. However, cavalry can withdraw from combat, and also cavalry can withdraw from other cavalry as long as they're lighter cavalry than what's actually attacking them. So as we had here, we had a French heavy cavalry unit being attacked by these two from these two spots. So therefore there was no withdrawal capability. And here, this medium cavalry from the French was being attacked by light cavalry, so therefore it didn't have an option either. But it was just interesting to note. So we're moving on to the 9 AM game turn, and the 3rd Cavalry becomes active. So for the planning phase of 9 AM, we select the planned chits, which, as I say, will be the aggressiveness tactics, Prussian aggressive tactics, and the Bazaines melees for each of the two sides. Put those into the chit cup, and then we place the Fortunes of War chit here, which always appears. 2 sides there, and the Prussian 5th Cavalry Corps, which is already active on the board, and then the French 3rd. Let's pull the first chit, and this chit is Prussian aggressive tactics. So this is where the French player can move a Prussian unit adjacent to a French unit and force it to assault. So I think in this situation we'll select the light cavalry there, which will send it against the French cavalry, but of course move it adjacent to the artillery as well, so that gets a shot. So we'll move that in here. We get an artillery shot from the horse artillery here, which is on a 3 column, canister, range is 1 hex, so that's plus 50%. So that'll be 4.5, which is on the 4 column, and then we add 3 columns to that because it's a cavalry target. It's on the 8 to 9 column. And we get 65, so 6 for the combat result. On the 8 to 9 column is a morale test plus 2, and the morale test itself is a 5. The 5 plus 2 gets us just beyond the current TCR, which is 6, so it turns into a disrupt. And now we have the combat with the French cavalry. So they have a strength point cost of their strength point of 1, and so does the light cavalry. And so there's a differential of 0. And as far as TCR goes, the French is actually better, because that's a 7 down to a 5, this is a 7 down to a 6, so there's another 1 shift in defender's favour. So that's on the -1 assault differential column, and we roll 1 dice. We roll with 3. The 3 comes out on the -1 column as an A2. So there's no star on it, so the defender can retreat, and it should retreat towards its HQ if it can, and so this will go 1, 2. There's no big result there, I'm afraid, but it has knocked the morale down of that cavalry unit at least. Let's go for the next chit. And it is the 5th Cavalry, sorry, the 3rd Cavalry of the French there. So these are the guys they're activating. So we'd like to recover some morale and also possibly bring back the broken unit that was removed from the board. So, and we're not going to actually charge off an attack with the one cavalry unit here. So we'll select a defensive posture, and for purposes of defending the town of Vionville, I think we will move the cavalry unit. There'll be no fire combat first. So the fire combat here will fire at this cavalry unit again. So we have 3 strength points, up 3 columns for the cavalry, which is the 6 to 7 column, and we roll. An 88, so 8 on the 6 to 7 column. It's actually roll test plus 3, and we have the 8 plus 3 is 11, which will actually cause a hit onto a casualty hit onto the cavalry unit there. So that cavalry unit is now in poor shape. However, I think we'll, having selected the defensive posture, we'll just set up a defence here if we can. For the movement step, we'll move the cavalry unit to the south of the town, I think. 1, 2 for up the slope, 3, 4. Just to defend the town from any encroaching cavalry, and then we will there will be no assault, and on the rally step we will use 1 point of our 3 we have to remove the shaken marker from that cavalry unit, and we will attempt to bring back the we can't bring back the other unit because it got eliminated this turn. It has to wait a turn to come back, so that's as far as we can go. Time for the next chit. And we have a Prussian random chit here, which is a cloud of skirmishers. This is useful for Prussian infantry to get a fire combat, or also a likely retreat before combat by a Prussian unit. There's some bonuses by playing this chit after holding it. I don't think anything's going to be relevant, so I think we'll turn this into a command event and place it on the reinforcement, Prussian reinforcement track, so we might be able to get reinforcements coming in a little earlier. So we'll put the command event onto the track, which is over here. That will give us a 1 or a 2 on a roll to speed up a reinforcement group. Okay, and the next chip is the Bazane's Malaise, which I put in as a planned chit. Not going to be that useful, seeing as the 3rd Cavalry Corps, Cavalry Division has already been activated. So again, I think we'll put this in as a command event. And the next chit. This is the Fortunes of War chit, so we make a dice roll to see what the Fortunes of War is. We roll a 0. If we look at the Fortunes of War chart here, we see that the 0-10 is a lull in the battle. battle, the result means that each activation from now on has to have a defensive posture and can only conduct fire combat, which is going to make it rather a short turn, even more than it already is. The next activation, such as it is the Prussian 5th Cavalry Division. So, under the lull in the battle, the HQ has to be in defensive mode and only fire conduct can be conducted. This leaves the 2 horse artillery units to open fire. Now, the Prussian artillery has a 4 hex normal range, which means it could get to the village. However, the Prussian cavalry in 1724 there would be obscuring the line of sight, so therefore it's probably worth the 2 artillery units firing on the cavalry unit. So that's 2 individual rolls, both identical, both 3-factor units. It's normal range, so we start on the 3 column and we add 3 for the cavalry unit. So the B unit to start first, which would be on the 6 to 7 column. So we've got a 76 there. So the 7 gives us a morale test +2, and so we add 2 to the 6 to get 8, which exceeds the cavalry unit, so it gets a shaking marker. And then the A horse artillery unit on the bottom fires as well. That's a much more devastating roll. A 7 on the 6 to 7 column would be at morale test +2. It's added to the 10, becomes 12. So that leads to a casualty hit and disruption. So much for the defending the village with that cavalry. Okay, so the final activation, as the rest of the activation for the 5th Cavalry Division doesn't happen because of the lull in the battle, is our last chit, which is 3rd de Bataillon chit for the French. So this basically means that a corps can be selected on the French side, which will allow it to effectively hedgehog. So they hunker down in place and they get bonuses on fire combat for the rest of the turn. Not particularly useful at the end of the turn, although we could use the 3rd Bataillon to as a command step to stop the Bazaines, or help stop the Bazaines Malaise chit for the next turn. So I think that's what we'll do. So bring that across here, and it's onto the 1 to 3 roll. So now we're at the end of the activations. We move on to the end turn phase, which we first look at the command events. So for the French, we have a dice roll for Bazaines' leadership, and we need a 1 to 3. We roll the dice, and we get a 10, which means that we get no help on the Zane's Malays chit. Then we move to the Prussians, who has a 1 to 5 on reinforcements. That's a 2, so there is help there. We'll remove the command events now. And we'll look at the reinforcement track. So if we now look at the game turn track, we can see that in 2 turns time there's a stack of Prussian 3rd Corps infantry. I think that's probably the best reinforcements to bring forward 1 turn, so we'll do that. So they're the 3rd Corps units that were there for 11 AM are now coming in at 10 AM, which is the next turn. So the final thing we do is the housekeeping step. At this point we remove any markers from the game board, which there aren't really anything there to deal with. And also the French player now selects the core activation, which will come on for the 11 AM. So looking at what's available here, and also then for looking at the board, there's quite a choice here as to which core. There's 3 options really here. There's the 2nd Corps, which is here around Raison V, which is closest and therefore could get into the battle as quickly as possible. There's the 4th Corps, which is deployed in an odd way, but could get probably in a turn or 2, could get involved. And finally there's the 3rd Corps up here, which could look at mounting some kind of outflanking manoeuvre. The other interesting point would be also right up here we have underneath the bronze cube VP, here we have the 1st Cavalry Division, which kind of has a easy run down to Mars-la-Tour. Now, seeing as we're probably going to get a lot more Prussians than we should have done, I'm not sure that's going to be useful. And even though we may race to Mars-la-Tour, we may actually win that race with the cavalry, it's going to be facing some nasty stuff if that's the case. I think looking here, I think we should get, 6th Corps moving. 2nd Corps is almost in position as a kind of defensive deployment here from the south. So I think the 6th Corps will be the next one to go in. So we'll put that activation chit on to the 11 AM, and that is the turn. We move the game turn marker on, and that's the 9 AM game turn. Thanks for watching.